Greetings, everybody. This is Matt Wanko here with an episode of What I Did Wrong at D&D for July 13th, 2016. People who have read my articles before may notice that there's something a little bit different about this week's stuff. And that's that I'm doing it as kind of, it's a little bit of a video, but a little bit more like a podcast type thing. I honestly, from where I'm sitting recording, I don't quite know if I'm going to do just a static image or try and change it up a little bit. Let me know down in the comments below, either here on the YouTube video, because that's where I like hosting these type of things, or if you go to mad-matt.com and you can leave a note for me there, that being my website where I put all my little writings and musings and my webcomic that I work on. And now that the shilling is out of the way, we can move on to what I did wrong this week. There's a couple things I did wrong. In general, it was a pretty strong week for me. It was one of those transitional style of weeks where we're in between the actual dungeon type things, the what's it called? The planned encounters, or story beats. Story beats is another cool phrase, because there are some definite story beats that I do want to tell in the upcoming weeks that we run this campaign, but I don't quite know what those are going to be, or when they're going to be quite yet. So some of them I don't quite know what they're going to be. I know the tournament is a thing that will happen, and because that's been foreshadowed a couple of times so far as we've been moving up, but I don't know where exactly in the story that'll be, and we'll get to it eventually, and we're working our way towards it. But today was a transition from the graveyard encounter stuff, wrapping that up, to the next little dungeon where we can get out of people exploring a city and more into the combat itself. This is, by the way, the third week of Season 2. It took me a second to pull that up here. That we are in the, the Gavani is the name of the city that we're playing in. I haven't quite yet named what the, not the show, but what the season is called, what the story arc is called. Something Icarus, probably. Icarus being an important historical character who will be who was a joke to start with, but now he is getting a little bit more prevalent in our backstory, which I'm still writing, and I need to go and probably type up everything I got for that, or at least write more of it, something like that. Anyway, what did I do wrong this week? It was a decent week for me, but there were a couple of things I messed up on. The first thing that we're going to hit on the list is starting late. I'm not a very punctual person. Let's just get that out there. Time is an illusion. Starting time even more so. However, this last week there was a long pause as people who I know I wanted to have at the table weren't quite there yet. And so, yeah, no, I delayed and I stalled while I was waiting for them, and then, someone had a phone call before they could actually walk into the building, and so, all in all, we spent a lot of time, just kind of sitting around waiting for it to start, and it was a little bit too much, but I didn't want to get into actually running the game, and then have to recap for the person who just showed up. I don't like doing that. And if I know that someone's going to be like an hour late, I can work with that. Whatever, they're an hour late, quantum party, I don't have to do anything, and I can just have somebody fill in with what's going on. Because you can do, you can sum up events that have happened to take you from, just an hour worth of gameplay can be summed up pretty quick, because a lot of the game is the actual discussion of, should we go do this, should we go do that, should we talk to this person or that person, hey look, combat against this thing. Combat can be summed up pretty quickly if you're backing away from the actual narrative description of the combat. And so, if someone's going to be an hour late, that doesn't bother me as much as if they're going to be there soon. Because I don't know if it's worth for me to get started, and I need to get better about it. I need to improve how I keep track of time at D&D. I've got thoughts on the matter that I haven't acted upon whatsoever. If I set it so I start at a specific time, say 6:15, 6:20, 6:30, something like that, one of those numbers, if I pick one of those and say that is the D&D start time, and if you ain't in the seat, then you don't get the recap, then that will create a firm boundary. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to try and start figuring out when I've been starting, because if I'm not willing to run late because it's not my location to decide when we close, if I don't want to run late, then I need to make sure that I'm using the time that I have available to the best of my capabilities, and starting late is not part of that. So that was the first thing that I did wrong. The second thing, it's this thing that I've done before, and that is the recap versus the rewind. Now, Angry DM did an amazing article, as he always does, about how important the recap is to be in the hands of the DM as a way to get players thinking about D&D, and as creating part of that transition from not playing into playing. And I like the words that he uses there, and it's really interesting. I haven't been able to apply it to my games yet. But yeah, no, I like the recap. I definitely agree with no longer giving players control of the recap. As fun as it has been for people to do it in character, it comes down to two different things. There is if you look at D&D as, say, a TV show, people might assume that the recap that you have before the game starts is for the people watching the show to be able to say, oh, okay, what happened last show? A bunch of stuff, and these are the plot points moving forward. And, at the start of any decently long series where the plot starts becoming important, they have a recap at the beginning to say what happened last time, what's happened this whole season, for us to know about. But in D&D, while it is entertaining, and while you can definitely be playing D&D with regards to having people watch it, the recap isn't for the audience. The recap is for the actors. The recap is for the people who are writing the script as they go. And that isn't something that should really be put into the hands of somebody who doesn't know what's going on, which is something that players do. Or somebody, let's be honest here. As DM, I probably spend at least 10 times the amount of time that the players collectively think about the game during the week. Playing D&D is definitely a lot more relaxing of an activity than running D&D. Because when you're playing D&D, you just have to show up, you get your dice, maybe you had a little bit of homework of making your character, DM wanted you to prep a speech for a funeral, whatever, that type of thing. It's not a lot of effort. But as the DM, I have to think about all the stuff I want to do that week, and how it relates to the stuff that's happened in weeks before, and there's just so much going on that I need to think about. And a lot of it isn't hard to think about, but it is time consuming. And so I have not, at this point in time, run 2 ongoing campaigns, because, oh my gosh, that sounds horribly scary to be doing two ongoing campaigns. Did I say online earlier? I'm not actually sure. I'm not going to go back and check. So, recaps are important, but I have this bad thing that I do, and I've definitely done it twice to my knowledge, and I think probably both to my detriment. Once was this week, and once was during the Scattered Isles campaign, which I ought to write down in my little notebook of things I'm keeping track of, things I did wrong there. But, what it is instead of a recap, or maybe as part of the recap, you back up the story just a tad. So, you know, the party has walked down into these caves, and they, you know, the week before they had triggered the big combat encounter because they did something foolish. But because you're being a nice DM and you aren't going to be rushing things, you say, you guys have just entered into the big cave. Are you going to trigger the combat encounter? And they're going to say, nah, we're going to trigger a social encounter and create a god and a race of people. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because that's actually what happened in the Scattered Isles. I backed out of a combat that I kind of wanted to run. And, yeah, no, I took a couple steps back to see if they would re-trigger it. And instead, they awoke a divine entity. So that was cool. And this last week, part of it was because I had 3 more players than the week before it. And so whereas the 2 players who had been there before had, they probably could have been satisfied with just a recap if I had just those 2. Instead, I had 3 more people who would have had 3 more things that they wanted to try and investigate. And it wouldn't... I don't know. I don't think it did those players a service to have them be able to investigate. And, but they were able to go and they were able to, you know, make die rolls and do crazy things that gave them a little bit of a picture of what's going on behind where we had left off. And because of that, I don't know what's going to happen. It definitely ate into our time of being able to go out and do things, but at least now they knew what the type of things they could go out and do. And so I'm not sure if it was a bad thing. I think it's definitely a thing that you should use sparingly. And I think it's really important that as you are doing recaps or rewinds, that you remember that these people are the actors and not the audience. And so at the end of a session, you don't want to go to, yep, we're going to play the dun 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 music, and all of a sudden we have made this revelation and somebody's about to like fall off a cliff or something. The problem with cliffhangers in D&D is that the next week, all of the tension that you spent building up for the character to suddenly be in peril, all of that tension has gone away because it's been a week and the guy has to dig out his character sheet and try and figure out how many hit points and what spell slots. And if you can end it at a decent, good stopping place where where they can pick up and then move into new danger the next week, I think it would be a more satisfactory story as a whole. So that is that. So recaps or rewinds, I'm not sure. They're both tools to definitely have available, and maybe I'll have more thoughts of those in the future. And hey, on any of this, I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions about the thing, so toss me comments wherever the heck you can find a place to throw comments at me. Cool. We'll move on to item number 3, which is taking notes as a DM. I did not take really good notes. It hasn't, this whole season thus far, I've been really bad about it because I've been doing this thing where I've been giving out cool magic items, and if I can do it ahead of time where I have a cool magic item to hand out, that is neat and well and awesome. But a lot of time I hand out a thing and with the intention, yeah, I'm gonna get you a card for that next week, and that next week card doesn't happen because I forgot to write it down. And I need to make sure that I have in my notes, for example, the Clock Tower commemorative plate. That's important. That's a card I need to make up for tomorrow's game. And I have yet to do so. But there's been a bunch of items where I have not written them down like I should. And if you don't, I really like these item cards that I've been handing out because it gives the players something physical to hold and identify as this is my inventory. And I believe that that is a very beneficial thing. And as a DM, I've been very lax in making sure I get those to the players in a timely fashion. There's also a problem that I have of making sure when I make up the name of an NPC to get that down on paper, so that I can have a consistently named and detailed NPC. I've also started, in regards to taking notes, but this is also just a thing I've been doing, is that every week I have a question for the players. This last week, the question is, what did your parents do for a living? I believe the question was. And so everybody, yeah, no, I think that was the question. That's what a lot of people answered, at least. Maybe that was the week before? No, pretty sure that was this week. Pretty sure that was this week. And so, you go around the table and you have people answer that one question. And, reintroduce their characters. You know, for example, frick, what's the name of one of my characters? Hi, I'm playing, Thomas Trask. He is a warlock rogue. And way back when, his parents ran a little, potion shop, outside of the, market square. And the potions were brewed in-house by my mom, and she, we gathered the ingredients, and, you know, it was a living, and that's where I learned how to make potions. And it's just like a short, simple little thing to add on to character background. The type of thing that, yeah, if you wrote out like 40 pages of character background, I'm sure it's in there somewhere. But as a DM, I don't got time to read 40 pages of character background. And so I've been asking these questions, just, you know, real quick, type of thing that you can put in as much thought into it as you want. And often you can just throw out the first thing that comes to your head. If you don't have an answer prepared, you give out the answer that you come up with, and it defines your character a little bit. You know, if your family was weavers or tailors or something like that, it doesn't really matter now that you are an amazing fighter who punches giants in the face. The details of your character's background don't really have a lot of effect on the story, but it adds a bunch of flavor that I think is really good. And hey, as a DM, you should write those notes down and be able to tie them back into the characters, because that will impress the socks off of the players. So, the fourth thing that I did wrong at D&D this week is that I set up a story beat to be keyed off of a failed social challenge. That isn't entirely what I did. I had this vague thought of this guy by the name of Squawjaw. No, I pronounce his name now. Where did I write his name? Where do I have his name written? I have his name written here. Squawjaw. Yeah, Squawjaw's fine. He's gonna have the nickname of Squarejaw once we meet people who will give him a nickname, except I'm not sure that I want him to be important in the story anymore, because he isn't working the way I wanted, and that's really annoying to me. And part of the reason he's not working the way I wanted is he was going to show up and, you know, threaten the party with arrest because they're in a place they shouldn't be, fighting things that shouldn't exist, yada yada, pressing fake charges or whatever. And then I was going to have another character, another NPC, come in and rescue them and play the patron towards the tournament and stuff. Except that when I had the guy come out and say, hey, what were you guys doing down there? My player went and gave a brilliant answer that not only distinctly summarized what had happened the previous weeks, but also was extremely informative, the type of thing that a guard would need to hear, and had a bunch of, like, extremely relevant details that I, as a DM, hadn't written down, such as the name of the inn they were staying at. I knew what the name of the inn was, but I technically don't have it written down, and so a player can say the name of it and beat me out for not having, you know, written it down. And it was just really, really impressive, and it threw off my whole, I was going to be a big jerk, and I was going to arrest all these people type of a feel that I wanted to have with this character. And I don't know exactly what I want to do with this character anymore, but I totally destroyed the plot hook that I was going to do with him to take them to the next point, which was introducing another NPC, and that's do I want to call that an extra point? Kind of. It's really tied into this one. The setting up the patron is something. A lot of D&D comes about naturally. That's how you want things to go. If you try and force, hey, this character is going to come in and he's going to stop the police from arresting you, and he is going to invite you back to his place instead of that inn that you're staying at, and he's going to sponsor your way into the tournament. If you're going to set that all up, you can just do it and it'll be very forced, or you can wait for the opportune times and have the characters and the NPCs act the way that makes sense for them to act. And if you can do that right, it'll be all natural and it'll feel great. Except that doing it all natural is really, really, really hard, because if you don't have it set up the proper way, it ain't gonna get done the proper way. And so you end up with a character who is just kind of like sitting there in the backstand. I could pull him out at some time, but I haven't yet. Which is okay, because the party's chasing other plot hooks. I can deal with that later. Yeah, no, I have some important NPCs that didn't work right, because I had a player succeed on a social challenge to, not piss off the guards, and I wasn't expecting that. For some reason, I'm really, really used to my players saying the wrong thing to the police. Maybe it's because the one person who has really talked to the police has said a wrong thing every single time he has done so, and managed to incriminate his party even when they haven't done anything wrong. That's just the type of, group that I roll with. Anyway, do I have anything else that I want to say and put forward in this article? I'm still going to be doing handwritten articles. I might move the Widwads, the What I Did Wrong at D&D articles, to a podcasty type thing. I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure. It depends on how good of a reaction I get from this. So if you think that you prefer to hear me talk as opposed to read me talk, let me know. Or if you prefer the other way, also let me know. I am going to still be doing some of my other longer rot articles, because they are longer rot articles. I've got a couple in the pipeline, but none of them have good release dates, because it's taken a while for me to think of exactly what I want to say. Whereas if I'm doing a podcast type thing, I'm just gonna start talking, and hopefully the things that I end up saying end up making sense. My computer monitors just fell asleep as I was recording. I hope nothing cut out. Okay, so yeah, that is going to be that. I do believe. Please, 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 if you haven't got the memo, I really want people to comment on this and tell me what they think and what I can do better with this. I'm fine moving forward in doing podcasty type stuff, as well as moving forward in D&D type stuff. So, yeah. Once again, my website, MATT hyphen, wow, did I just, yep, I just got my website backwards. Thank you. Mad-matt.com, MAD-MATT.com, where I do comic 3 times a week, as well as occasional D&D articles, and answer a bunch of questions for people if they have questions for me. Hey, this is also my channel where I occasionally make videos, not very occasionally. So those are places to find me. I'm also on Twitter at MattWandCow, MATTWANDCOW. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing about what I did wrong and what I'm going to try and do better next time. So cheers!